Hello and welcome to the old Fliers. Home-built aircraft are often referred to as experimental due to their classification by aviation authorities like the Federal Aviation Administration in the United States and the Civil Aviation Safety Authority in Australia. The term experimental is based on purpose and construction rather than solely on whether they are home-built. Experimental category aircraft also include not only amateur-built aircraft, but also other types of aircraft that do not fit into the standard categories such as normal, utility, acrobatic, etc., due to unique design features or intended purposes. This can include prototypes, modified aircraft, and aircraft used for specific purposes like research and development. Therefore, while all amateur-built aircraft are considered experimental, not all experimental aircraft are amateur-built. While we explore further, how about we show examples of experimental aircraft? Amateurs building aircraft at home implies unsophistication, perhaps a freedom denied factory builds. Home builders often innovate and modify designs. This allows for experimentation with new technologies, materials and construction techniques that may not yet be certified for general aviation use. They may use unique designs that may not conform to standard aircraft designs or certification criteria used for factory-built aircraft. Since these aircraft are not mass-produced under controlled factory conditions, their airworthiness is initially established through an inspection and certification process that includes documentation of construction methods and materials used. Have any innovations from home-built aircraft made their way into factory builds? If you know of any, please comment below. Restrictions on all experimental aircraft, including home builds, include prohibition from being used for commercial purposes, conducting paid flights, or carrying passengers for hire. These restrictions reflect the regulatory authorities' concerns about safety and reliability compared to factory-built aircraft. Overall, the term experimental highlights the developmental and exploratory nature of these aircraft, distinguishing them from production aircraft that have undergone rigorous certification processes and are built under strict manufacturing standards. An experimental aircraft will have a notice on the panel advising people that the aircraft is not necessarily built to certified aircraft standards and passengers travel at their own risk. Here in Australia, CASA allows a home builder of an experimental aircraft to do several things under certain conditions, such as construction from scratch or from a kit, as long as they do at least 51% of the work. They can modify and repair without needing an aircraft maintenance engineer's license, as long as the modifications and repairs are within the scope defined by CASA. They can operate the aircraft once completed and registered with CASA. Maintain the aircraft in an airworthy condition, including performing routine inspections and any necessary maintenance or repairs. Test fly their aircraft to ensure it meets safety standards and performs as expected. In the early days of aviation, all pilots were test pilots flying experimental aircraft. The Wright brothers had no precedent to their trials in the experimental Wright Flyer. The X designation in an aircraft's identification typically signifies experimental or prototype status, indicating that the aircraft is a test bed for new technologies, configurations or capabilities. While many famous examples like the X-1, the first aircraft to break the sound barrier, and the X-15, a rocket-powered aircraft used for high-speed flight and space flight research, are indeed military, there are exceptions. For instance, civilian experimental aircraft like the Rutan Model 76 Voyager, which circumnavigated the globe non-stop without refueling, also used an X designation, namely X-76.
Their destination was the annual Jamboree for light aircraft enthusiasts at Oshkosh in Wisconsin. This was Voyager country, full of people nutty about building their own, often experimental planes.
Let's salute the Voyager with a great big round of applause.
Voyager was the star of the show, and Dick and Gina, heroes of the moment.
Other examples are the first P-47 Thunderbolt, ex-P-47B, flown by Lowry Brabham in May 1941. The first flight of Boom Supersonics XB-1 marks the return to the skies of a civil supersonic aircraft 2 decades after Concorde's retirement. There are hundreds of experimental aircraft in development around the world. Argentina, Australia and Brazil each have 1, Canada 11, France 40 and Russia 37. Research can be into any aspect, including lifting surfaces, propulsion and control. Increasingly, there is research into unmanned combat aerial vehicles such as the Northrop Grumman's X-47B, first flown in 2011. Today, there are 16,483 registered aircraft in Australia. 1,070 of these are classified as experimental aircraft. A further 382 are classified separately as amateur-built aircraft, just 2.3% of all those aircraft. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to encourage new content.